So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place due to the outbreak of the coronavirus, this meeting of the Town of Berlin Select Board will be conducted by a remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time. The Town of Berlin will use best efforts to post an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the town's webpage, the town's YouTube channel. Approved minutes will be posted to mytowngovernment.org. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to attend the virtual meeting may attend via the Zoom webinar platform in one of two ways, with both audio and video access or by telephone audio only. Should any board member have technical difficulties and or lose access to the meeting will recess for a period of time to see whether access can be restored. If not, the meeting will be continued to another date agreed to by a majority of the board or adjourned until our next scheduled meeting. So I would like to take a moment to remember the lives lost on January 6th at the Capitol and the lives lost due to COVID-19 this year, to pray for all of their families. Our thoughts are also with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris tomorrow as they take the oath of office. We hope they are able to successfully mitigate Americans' anguish due to the pandemic and the many other global concerns. So I'd like to have a moment of silence to think about these things and our hopefulness for a better and brighter 2021. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. The first thing on our agenda is approval of minutes. And it's not December 28th, as it is the anyway, it's approval of last week's minutes.
So moved
So moved.
and
Okay.
seconded.
Second.
There you go, Scott, and I just picked off like the next two. You've got.
All right. All right. If there's no comments, questions, changes, then we'll take a vote. Keefe, aye.
A Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. And we had some correspondence from Highland Commons Liquors.
That is correct. Would you like me to read it, or do you just want me to, I can give a snapshot. They are
Yeah.
asking for reconsideration to be allowed to sell nips at the Highland Commons liquor store. And I have presented a recommendation to the board under this item that the board discuss Mr. Leonard, he's the manager, Mr. Leonard's request under correspondence this evening and decide if it would like to invite him to appear before the board at an upcoming meeting to present his request.
And how does the board feel about this?
Are nips allowed to be sold anywhere in Berlin? Okay, we have two other liquor
Mhm.
stores, correct?
Mhm.
And
They're sold at Dagnalds. Is there another, there is another all alcohol, or just
No.
Dagnalds, right?
Just the
Okay.
two.
Okay, and
right,
there's,
so the other one is just beer and wine.
The
The one at
third
the
one.
Rotary. Yeah.
Yes. And we had verbally agreed with Highland Commons at the time when we had the hearing that they would not sell nips. And they were abiding by that, so they're asking for us to reconsider.
Well, I mean, I know in the letter it said that, where was it, that it was revenue lost, that it
Right.
was minor. So I really would like to know how minor and how much revenue. You know, I understand, but I'm also a little bit concerned that they entered into our initial agreement and said, yeah, okay. I think we need to have some type of input from the public as well. You know, our mysterious fireball bandit and how much that aggravated everybody walking around picking up their nips
Mhm.
on Earth Day, either Earth Day 1.0 or 2.0. It doesn't matter which one. But yeah, I know you can't penalize one and have Diagnos continue to sell them as well, but be,
Right, and the ones we're picking up now are the result of being sold at Highland Commons.
I know. Well, and that's just it. And you'd almost love for him to say, or, you know, for us to say to him, oh, sure, you know, if we let you, then, you know, what help could you give us for our Earth Day cleanups? You know, would you be willing to be an active participant? But again, we really don't ask Diagno to say that. So, you know, for every
Right.
excuse that I'm coming up with an alternate excuse. But I'd love to hear, you know, their side of the story.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard, of course, to know how much they've lost business,
Yeah.
because no one says, I didn't come to your place, I went over to Bacon's or Dagnall's or somewhere else to buy things because you didn't have it. I'm
Right.
sure, like any good business owner, when the customer comes up to him and says, boy, I would buy more here if you also sold X, you try to find a way to sell X. I am, you know, my side of me that says let businesses do what they want is kind of torn between also having to pick up a handful of these every single week when I do my walks around town. And that, yes, they're probably used for gifts sometimes and sometimes used for recipes, but they're also used by a lot of people to pour inside soda cans so they can drink and drive.
Right.
Agreed.
And throw out the window.
Yes.
Correct.
Although
So,
drinking and driving is a concern too, especially in our town streets.
Correct.
Well, I can say I was there on Friday and they were doing pretty good on Friday.
Yeah. I mean, and I frequented it too and helped their bottom line. So, you know, I see people going in and out of there all the time. I guess I don't want to poo-poo it and say no without hearing at least their proposal and what they plan to do and how they plan to police it and how they plan to help the town when it comes to cleanup day.
well, those are
Yeah.
good questions to ask.
And I think it could be put out a little bit, like I'm not thinking the next week or two. Let's look at mid-February so we have some time to those people watching this either live or
Mhm.
on the channel or in the various social media forums or social circle forums that happen in town to get some feedback on it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, next agenda I think is pretty full anyway. So
Yeah.
So it seems like the decision would be to bring them in perhaps mid-February or so.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if Chris or Margaret, you could give them some guidelines from what we're thinking, what we'd like to see beyond, hey, I know we told you that we weren't going to sell nips, but now we want to sell nips. So what do you think?
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that decision being made, we'll move on to general public comment. I don't see any hands. So we will move on to our liquor license amendment, change of manager for the Berlin Country Club.
Berlin Country Club has submitted an application for change of manager. This does not require a hearing. Mary has indicated that all the paperwork is in order and Chief Galvin has conducted the Cory check, which is also in the board's folder, and he has not found any significant concerns. So therefore, I recommend that the board approve the change of manager requested by Berlin Country Club. There are, before the board goes on, there are some other issues that aren't going to be taken up tonight that will have to be taken up later. The Berlin Country Club wants to expand their service area to include the course itself. That's something that's going to have to be hashed out later. So this is strictly for the change of manager.
I'm fine with approving the change of manager at Berlin Country Club.
Okay.
Seconded, no problem.
Okay, then we'll take a vote. Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. And we have a general department update from Chief Clark.
Here he
Hello.
is. Hey,
Good
Chief.
evening, everybody. How are you?
Aye.
Good, how are you?
Good.
Doing well. How's everyone holding up?
We're
Good.
holding up.
Okay, that's all that
Yep.
counts. Hi, Margaret.
Hi, Chief.
Hi, Chief.
Hi, everybody.
Long time no see.
Hey, I always wait for you at the end for questions. That's my favorite part of the meeting.
Well, I know, but you say hi, Margaret, so you got two of us, so.
Oh,
you know.
that's right. So we both answered.
That's true.
Right, so we both say, hi, Chief. Yep.
You got me on that one. That's a good one. No, I just wanted to quickly review your the December activity report with you. And a couple of notes that I got. But we had 85 total responses for the month, 2.7 per day. And that gave us, at the end of the month, 881 for calendar year 2020 compared to 681 for calendar year 2019. So even with the slowdown in March, April, and into May with when the COVID started, we still had a pretty active month. The highway's been busy and just generally busier. You know what I mean? A lot of things, it's just a sign of a growing community type things. I've lived through it before, so it's like nothing new. But I'll quickly give you a breakdown of the responses, and you can any questions there would be appreciated. There was 22 fire related. That's anything that the engines respond to. That would be anything from a fire alarm to a CO detector going off to a call for a fire, whatever. There was no significant fires for the month of December, which is good. I always keep my fingers crossed, especially in December. The ambulance was fairly busy with 27 calls for the month. We'll go into a little bit of detail down on how we've been working hard with that EMS finance group and spend some time on that. 5 motor vehicle accidents that the ambulance responded to, and then there was 28 responses for like public service, anywhere from lift assist, seemed to be a lot of those lately, but it is what it is. And assisted the PD a couple times, and there was one kind of like odd one, which I just put in another. So it's like for other type of calls. So it was pretty busy. The training's back on. We're going over to Zoom with the training. And also we're very blessed to be into the apparatus bay, and we can do really good social distancing with masks to do training there with the big screen that we got. So it's like, that's doing good. Mike Wheeler's doing a really good job of bringing that presentation to the people on our regularly scheduled trainings. The EMS dropping down, the 5-inch activity report should be attached. I reviewed that all the time, every month before it gets kicked up to you guys through Mary. And he's been really busy with the inspections. It's quiet a little bit because the apartments are done, but some other stuff is picked up really quickly. There's another small subdivision on West Street that's moving. And I got some more information on that near the end of the report. The EMS collections working group, we held a meeting, I believe it was last week. And I request through the chair, Chris, we had some 2014 incidents that were identified as past the statute that we could bill for. And it's a substantial amount, but they're too old and they're back in 14, like I said, and it's $12,448.38. And June was really good to come down with that number after dealing with First Financial, the collection agency. So if I may ask your board to make that request through you, Chris, to write those off, that would help our group move forward and start heading towards 15 getting through up into the present on the financial working group for EMS.
I'm fine making the motion to write off that $12,000 or so as listed by the fire department. I would like if when the next time we do a spreadsheet like that, it doesn't say sort of who the person we were trying to collect from. When we did this last time, there was a little bit more sort of story behind each one of them, and I don't need a paragraph or two, but
Okay.
would like to see. But I don't want to slow up this either because of that.
No, the thing that I gotta be careful of is too much information, like as a.
Yep.
For my HIPAA, you know what I mean? So we
Right.
gotta, yeah, but we got some, I'll send them tomorrow, because we actually have one. It's like, from June, and it's broken down, so it's like, let me get that, through Mary tomorrow to your group.
Yep. I am fine with just like the name of the place that we were writing this off for. You know, are we writing it off from Blue Cross Blue Shield? Are we writing it off from, you know, a property owner because it was damage? And so I think that was the last one was, you know, the name and a category, for lack of a better term. I don't think it
Okay.
ever was diagnoses or whether or not the person we sent the bill to was a person who was injured or someone representing someone who's injured. That's not relevant to me.
This spreadsheet here, it doesn't have any names attached to it.
Right.
I can hunt for that tomorrow. And it's like, they're all past statute that just are past
Yep.
that time that we can collect, so they're kind of all lumped together into that.
I'm fine. I don't think you need to do anything more on this one. I'm fine to pass to at least motion to approve this one. I just, for the next one we get to just have a little bit more on it.
Okay.
Because I'll think once we pass this, I think I'll be done with this list. I don't need to know more about it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have a second? Hi there.
Sure, I'll second it.
All right, then let's take a vote. Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Thank you.
Passes.
Thank you.
Can I ask Chief a couple questions on that, though?
Yes, ma'am.
So when the statute of limitations, and I don't know if it's a you question or a June question, is she lurking in the audience? Yes, she is, and she's probably sitting there, dear God, don't mention my name.
Years.
How far does that statute of limitations go back? Is it 2015, 2016, a year,
It's-
2 years, 10?
I'm
Jim
not
can
sure
confirm.
what month, but I believe it's sometime in 15.
Okay,
So some of the
It's-
15s may go in our discussion, but it's been a while ago since we had that specific discussion. So I can't be 100% sure sitting here.
Okay.
You know what I mean, but
It's,
Go
through the
ahead,
chair,
Mark.
it's 6 years. It's 6 years to the month. So we follow the month. So once the month is
Okay.
expired beyond 6 years, it's,
we're
that's
done.
the statute. Yeah.
Do we
Okay.
have an idea of what's coming up, maybe in 2015, that we're not going to be able to do anything with? Ish?
That, through the chair, that Coastal is working on with First Financial. So all of those collections are at the collection agency. They're working
Okay.
on them, trying to see if they can get any collections out of those old bills.
Okay,
You know, and I believe it was actually from a previous billing company too.
It
So
was.
it's kind of like, it's like tough ground to kind of tread over, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like the past company in Coastal, there's a lot of hands in there.
agreed. And I know that I know when I started, we put together the write-off policy. So Margaret, Chief, June, are we working on that? Where are we with that to get it updated?
So I had been working and I'm still working on a draft. So we had a couple of iterations going. It's still a work in progress. Now I know we all recognize that the board approved one back in 2018, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
What we were trying to do is create a bit more of a succinct policy that would be easy to follow. And remove any references to costs for any particular year. If the chief was going to be allowed to waive the fees for someone based on income, that policy actually cited incomes for a particular year. So we'd want to remove those and clean them up. So it's still a work in progress. And,
Okay.
it might look similar to the policy that the board adopted in 2018, but a little more little more streamlined, a little more succinct.
Okay, and that's fine. I mean, I know with 2018 it had started, stopped, started, stopped. So I think that we just wanted to try and get something out there. So at least we have a groundwork to start from and fix.
Mhm.
Okay.
Ultimately, moving forward, and Chief and June and I all agree with this, there'll be a regular schedule, like once annually, the board, or twice annually, the chief will come to the board to ask for write-offs of qualified uncollectible amounts. So, once we clean up the old
Well
stuff.
said, Margaret. Yeah, she said it very well. We go over that every month with the group when we meet. And it's like, that's the goal to get to, is only have you bring this up and deal with it twice a year. You know what I mean? So it's like, but we're not there yet. So we're feet are kind of stuck in the mud still. So it's like, but we're trying to get going.
Nice.
Okay. Well,
And just for some, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. Is that just for FYI type stuff, I put down in there EMS billing for the month of December in the credits. So the billing is how much transports are done and what we're able to charge for, and the credits is what has come back in. So that's been our best month since I've been here and seen those. So it looks like it, hopefully it's trending, but you got to give it more than just this positive, just 1 month. And then the other two figures there is the response billing to date for FY21 and the credits to date for 21. It just kind of gives you an idea of volume wise, how much the service did for that year, and then how much of the credits we get back for that. So we're still trying to work on that. That's really a low return. I'm not used to that, but it's like, there's a lot of factors in the community that drive that. So that we don't have control over. So. Now, some of my favorite stuff I get to talk about is like the personnel. Okay, we've had some personnel do a lot of training. We had our second female firefighter, Jasmine Murillo, complete 260 hours of training, and she's a certified firefighter 1-2. She actually killed it. I know some of the instructors still, they're old timers like me, and they said that she did really, really well. And she brings in a smile, and she brings in a really positive work attitude when she's in the building. She's part of our per diem shift coverage, does a great job. Now she's able to she said to me, "Oh, Chief, someday you and I will get to go on a fire on the same closed line." So it's like, she doesn't just waiting her chance to do it. You know what I mean? So I like that. It goes to my heart when I hear people that want to do those kind of things. We have another firefighter, Andrew Maurice, who's in that training now. He's going, I think it's Monday, Wednesdays and Saturdays to that training until the 260 hours is complete. And I just got they're like 2/3 of the way through. He's doing well. I just got his second report from the fire academy, and he's doing really well there. We have 2 new personnel. One's a certified firefighter 1-2 paramedic, and one's a firefighter 1-2 coming in, and they're in the middle of their pre-employment physicals and working through that so that we're able to take them on the street. And I think one of those, the paramedic one, is actually going to be a career firefighter someplace. I just heard today, and she'll be able to work with us, come in as a call firefighter. So we're going to get really good experience there from her. And another one with a huge, huge resume. It's good to see these people come in. And that's kind of it with the personnel. And the only other thing I wanted to bring you up to speed on, the grant. For some reason, the grants are like been really, really busy lately. Sometimes you go, it's either feast or famine with them. And we applied for a $10,000 grant to replace a tack line hose. That's the stuff that you see the guys and the girls pull off the truck to go into a building, go at a car fire with. And it's going to be color coded. All the trucks will be the same, and it's going to be standardized across the board for the whole Berlin Fire Department with that grant. And then I'm working on a AFG grant to replace the supply hose, which is the big hose you see always laying in the street, usually yellow. It's 4 or 5. We have 5. Some of it's 15 to 25 years old, tired. And we're going to try to get a federal grant to replace all that and standardize all that supply equipment and appliances. Every truck's the same. So it's like, with getting the federal grants. And we're also, well, that's it for the grants. And the other two are kind of like, we're actually finally getting to spend the money on was the EMPG grants from MEMA to, for EOC infrastructure down in the training EOC room in the cellar. So it's like, that's moving really well. What else we got there? Oh, we also signed, which is really nice, and kudos to the town of Bolton. Their ALS went up a couple of weeks ago, week and a half maybe. So we use them as our primary ALS on the north side. We got the town broken down into two distinct run card zones, a north and a south. And on the north, they're our primary ALS from 7 in the morning till 7 in the evening. It's a 12-hour shift they run. And they come down, and I think they use them the first day, the other day on the highway. So Monday or Sunday or Monday, they use them on the highway. So it's like, that's it. The chief up there has done a great job of that. And it's costs money to do it, but it's very affordable compared to some of the ones that we work with. So it's like, that's where we are with that.
So are you having Northborough cover ALS the other hours and the rest of Berlin?
No, the primary one, other than Bolton, is Patriot out of Hudson. They come in, if Patriot was busy, if Bolton was busy or Patriot was busy, we would use either one of them first. Like if we were on the south side and Patriot was busy, we would bring in Bolton. It's like, it's just, it's hard to be, it's hard to explain it like without saying that it costs a lot of money to use Northborough, and they're there to make money. But Margaret will smile when you put that to it. It's like, it's interesting to deal with, and it's like they're very positive. They do a fantastic job, but it's just something that it's challenging for us to afford. So
Yes.
they're at the bottom of the list to call. I got to be honest. You know what I mean? I can say
No, that's no problem. I just wasn't aware that we were using Patriot.
Patriot's been there since I've come in. They were primary when I came in the door.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, it's a private ambulance, but they come right out of Northborough. They do a fantastic job, all paramedic service. So it's like, it's a PB truck, like one paramedic and one EMT on it. And actually our firefighter Jasmine is, that's what she does on her full-time job, is she's the basic on one of the PB trucks. So she's very, very skilled and brings a lot to the table. And,
Good.
and the only other thing I wanted to share with you that just came up within the past week is that as of next Monday, all of our day staff personnel will be operational. Everybody that's on the roster there during the day. There's myself, there's the fire marshal, and there's the two on-duty personnel, one career and one. Everyone will be operational and be responding to fire and EMS calls.
Okay.
So I just wanted to let you guys know that. And I think that there was maybe a document that was sent along so that you can make you aware of that. If it wasn't, I will make sure that you get it tomorrow. So that will give us like everybody that's in the building goes to work when the bell rings. So it's like, well, the tone goes off. You don't have a bell there, it's a tone, but it's like, and we all go and we're out doing what we're supposed to be doing on the street.
All right. Is there any other questions for the chief?
Oh, thank you. It was a good report.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, no, Chief, I don't have any questions, just a couple comments. I mean, the cost savings from Bolton to Northborough is just phenomenal, what you were able to do for the town.
There wasn't a negotiation there, Peg. That's just what Chief Legendre charges.
I know, but still, for you to seek out, the use of other resources besides Northborough is, thank you for doing that. And, then on your report too, where I can see how you beam with pride when you talk about what your folks are doing and how they've completed training and how they're, going through orientation. That's a sign of a good chief. That's a sign of a well-respected chief, that people want to come to Berlin instead of running from Berlin. So
Thank you.
Thank you for all that you do and all that you will do. And so glad that you and I had that conversation years ago, and here you are and here you will stay. for as long as we can.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you for taking the time to spend the time with me. Thank you.
And hugs to Ava. Can't,
Yep.
can't end,
Yes,
can't end
Dave.
a meeting without an Ava update.
No, unbelievable. Yep. I can't even, it just warms my heart when you say her name.
Yeah.
It's that simple. You know, it does. It's like, no, she just brings a smile to my face. It's what worth all this nasty stuff they have to do in life at work. It makes it all worthwhile. To me anyways, you know. It does.
That's what life's all about, see?
What it should be about. It's what it should be about.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Chief. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Take care of yourselves. Be safe.
You
You
bet. You
too.
too.
Bye.
All right. And we're moving on to the town administrator report.
Okay, I'm going to just briefly touch on COVID. So we've started, a good portion of my report is provides links to the Mass DPH website to different pages, including details on the COVID-19 vaccine. I myself have received a few questions from people about when and where they're going to receive their vaccines. That's a question that we cannot answer yet. The state is rolling out the vaccines in phases, and in my TA report, I explain that. DPH is accepting emails with questions, well, from people with questions and comments about the vaccine distribution, the phase vaccine distribution, and they will make some periodic updates accordingly. So look for the links in my TA report. Again, Mary's going to upload those. Just to find them. My TA reports can be found at town-administrator/pages/town-administrator-reports. But if you go right on the town's homepage, under the COVID-19 tab, that's where the latest updates will be. So people can find those there. We had a department head meeting this morning, so I'm just going to give you a couple of brief updates from the various departments. This year, June is going to be very strict about closing the books on July 31st. In prior years, she's attempted to, and there have been, some obstacles that have prevented that by July 31st. But in order to remain on track for the recap and tax rate setting process, she is going to be strict about it this year. So we're going to give all departments, boards, and committees advance notice to make sure they stay on their monthly reconciliation sheets and track those so it does not hold up the end of the year process. Bob Hodge reported. Did someone have a question on that?
Sorry, I was going to say that the other side of that, and this has nothing to do with June, is that if people don't get their bills in, that also means we have to spend time at town meetings passing previous year reports that weren't in. And so I think it's also being clear with department heads that not only do they have to get all the paperwork to June, they have to make sure all the bills are in time. So they're not giving bad information to June, causing extra time at town meetings.
Or yes, that's
And
right.
for June and for the staff, yes.
The departments
Yep.
themselves have to go and be proponents for unpaid bills of prior fiscal years, right? Bob Hodge from the library reported that CM Geeks, the town's IT vendor, is going to begin installing their new computers on Friday. They are still running on Windows 7 computers, so Bob and staff are very excited that they're going to be getting their new computers installed. He also added that even with COVID and the curbside service that they've been doing for quite some time since the spring, they're at about 75 to 80% of circulation compared to last year, which really isn't bad given the situation. Dave at Highway reported that the National Grid tree crews are going to be doing some work in town. I don't know if he said it was either later this week or next week, so you can be on the lookout for them. They're going to be helping us to clear some trees in our public ways from the power lines. Dennis reported that Worcester Regional Retirement System, the percent decrease, well, I shouldn't say percent decrease, the smaller percent increase the town is seeing this year is due to the schools further shifting from our assessments over to the school assessments. So that's contributing to the reduced increase we're seeing. He also mentioned that they're just about ready to kick off the actuarial study for that baseline OPEB or baseline post-employment benefits costs. Chief Galvin reported that Governor Baker has signed the police reform bill, as you probably all know, which has established a police training commission, which is currently in the process of being established now. One of the first things all departments are going to have to do is change their use of force policies. All of his full-time officers have now attended full-day bias training. And one of the full-time officers is taking the Train the Trainer course to be able to provide the training in-house to the part-time officers. So that's a very good strategy. It's also saves some money. He's also assisting us with arranging for multicultural diversity training for all town employees. So that's going to be coming up. Victoria for Council on Aging reported that they finished the senior meals distribution and distributed meals to 97 families. Council on Aging is continuing with the calls to seniors. They're doing yoga through Zoom and putting the videos online so that people have access to those virtually. Richard from Inspection Services reported that their office is active with the Highland Street Senior Housing project and the subdivision on West Street. And finally, Chief Clark reported on the grants that he reported to the board on tonight. So that's fresh new information hot off the press. Because of COVID, a little bit back to COVID here, I have requested that town employees that do not have to absolutely be in their offices every single day work from home as much as possible, at least through January 24th. That date is aligned with the date the governor put in the latest order about gathering limits. They've extended some timelines. So those dates are tied together, and we're going to have to see how it goes because Berlin's numbers, positivity is up to almost 10% now. IAC, the Insurance Advisory Committee and Benefits Consulting. Back in 2014, a draft charge was presented by former board member Judy Booman, but that charge, it turns out, was never approved by the board. So I've just learned this. And because we're restarting our Insurance Advisory Committee, it's going to be starting up again, I wanted to be sure that they at least had a charge to work from. So I've drafted a charge that I'm introducing to the board tonight in this TA report. And I'm asking the board to review it and maybe at your next meeting approve the charge. Substantively, the charge has changed very little from what Judy Booman presented in 2014 because the statute hasn't changed. This charge is based on the requirements of the statute. And it does provide a little bit more guidance with respect to the fact that the committee is not subject to the open meeting law. It's an employee negotiations committee as opposed to a public body. So it does touch on those items. So I ask that the board please review that if you're willing to, and then at your next meeting, I would ask you to approve it. Feel free to give me comments and questions over the next week. So the Fire EMS Union and Police Union have both requested to begin contract negotiations. Within the next couple of meetings, the Select Board is going to begin discussing strategy and executive session with respect to those negotiations. FY22 budget process. You'll see again tonight that I don't have any specific recommendations on the FY22 working budget document. We are still working on the spreadsheet that reflects the 2% recommended COLA that the Personnel Committee has presented. I want to get all of those reviewed and assure that all the numbers are completely accurate before we put those into the working budget spreadsheet. We did have a brief discussion with Bob Conry at the school district regarding Berlin's limited new revenue growth capacity for FY22. And we explained, Chris and I were at this meeting, we explained, what we're seeing with commercial enterprises or the retail establishments in town, and the impacts on taxpayers, frankly, because as a school district, they see another piece of this where we see the impact on the taxpayers themselves. So we have asked that they restrict their assessment growth to 2.5%.
I can tell you one of the things that, but when we had a big tax rise one year, probably towards the end of my tenure on FinCom, one of the things we discovered we had been doing wrong or led it to is that the new growth number in the budget was new growth, but was not net new growth. It didn't take about contractions in places. And so making sure that although we might add, let's say, $200,000 worth of new property to this town, if we lose $500,000 worth of property in this town, then that messes up a lot of math and causes some large tax increases that were unexpected.
That's exactly right. And in a period like this, that contraction does need to be taken into account. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so one of the recommendations that was done after the FinCom and Select Board did a postmortem about why did the tax rate go up significantly more than any of us saw coming, was to make sure that that number was net new growth, not gross new growth. And so just as a reminder that that is probably still the right way to go. And if that might mean in some years it's a negative number.
Yeah. Or level. Yeah.
Yep.
All good points. Thank you. The Capital Planning Committee is going to be meeting this Thursday night and next Thursday night to finalize their capital budget recommendations to the board. By bylaw, capital planning needs to present those by January 31st. In this particular case, that's a Sunday, so it'll be the night after. February 1st, the Capital Planning Committee will be before the board with the recommended capital plan for FY22. Almost done. Okay, back to shared streets and spaces again. So I've continued to remain in contact with MassDOT. MassDOT continues to encourage the town to spend its remaining shared streets and spaces grant funding. So when I looked back at all of the compiled comments from the pilot project, those few areas where there was a common comment, like there was a consensus on positives from the project. The crossing signals, the flashing beacons that some people had a little bit of a hard time adjusting to. Overall, we received positive comments about those. So I have asked MassDOT if we could spend remaining grant funds on push button activated pedestrian crossing signals, one at Woodward and one at Linden. Not at Carter and Central because that does not connect sidewalks, but the Linden Woodward one does connect sidewalks. They have approved that as a potential expenditure. So we're looking to see if we can get some quotes and see how we might proceed with that. It also requires access permission from MassDOT, and the Shared Streets and Spaces program at MassDOT is checking with our district on that. So I'd like the board's feedback. I'd like a little more community feedback on that, but you know, in the whole scope of that pilot project, these were a few areas where there were some positive takeaways, and it certainly would improve the safety of kids, adults, and families crossing right there. The next, I'm almost done, I promise. The next item is that last week, all the staff departments trained on Civic CMS web portal training. It was really very informative. It was recorded for future reference, and I have received the recording from Civic CMS, and I'm going to upload that to a shared drive. I think Mary has actually set up a shared drive where we're going to be able to put the training videos for town departments, boards, and committees in one central spot. So folks are going to be able to view that recording. Last week, Tim Wheeler and I attended the Assabet Regional Housing Consortium's meeting. They did discuss Berlin's petition to join, but did not take a formal vote that day. They wanted to give all the member towns time to provide any feedback to Metro West Community Development as to whether or not they feel that their needs are being met right now. There didn't appear to be any opposition, and we're hoping and we do expect a vote at their February 9th meeting. Tim has already brought a recommendation, or is bringing a recommendation to the planning board for an FY22 budget request submission on that assessment. And finally, the Neshoba Valley Regional Dispatch District's executive director is going to be, or is planning to leave because he's received a conditional offer of employment as the executive director of Los Angeles County's dispatch center. And they're seeing very busy times right now. But that wraps it up for me for tonight. Thank you.
Are they putting together a search committee of some kind then?
It hasn't, he just made the announcement, so it hasn't started yet, but I'm sure we're going to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Margaret?
Margaret, sorry.
No,
You
no,
wanna go
Scott,
back?
go. No, Scott, go.
I know for the general public, there's not some information yet quite about vaccines, but for our police and fire, I
Yeah.
thought last week there are dates that our first responders are going to get their first round of vaccines.
Ours will be getting them tomorrow, the 20th and the 23rd. And they're all scheduled. They're going to be going to Boxborough for those. Our first responders will be.
Great.
The fire and smoke alarm for the curatorial storage building, is that moving along?
Dave is actually scheduling the work there to have the fire alarm installed so they can get their CO.
I have one more thing, but I think it's best at the end of the meeting and not part of the TA report.
Okay.
All right, so Margaret, I got some questions for you on the, and it's funny because I was going to ask you about the pedestrian signs, because as I drive through, they're constantly blinking. And I remember one comment being, you don't see them anymore, you know, if
People
they're
getting onto
constantly
them,
blinking.
exactly.
Correct. So you answered that question, but you talked about any suggestions for additional ways for us to spend the money. Is there something that you could maybe put together for suggestions? I'm thinking this might be an item article, you know, obviously not for this week, you know, for next week, that if you want to solicit public feedback, that might be the way, you know, to hit the item and all the other forms of communication that you had put out there. I don't want people to say, well, you know, the traffic to South Street, Route 62 is horrible, and, you know.
Yeah,
Pleasant
so there are a couple of rules, and I'm happy to take any suggestions to get this done as quickly as possible, because MassDOT's not going to wait forever. They've been really good, but we do have to keep it moving. So I'm happy to use whatever venues or we can use for the to get feedback. But the other rule is it has to pertain to that project area, so we can't expand out of it. So we have to make sure that whatever we do is in there.
In that area.
project. Yeah.
Okay, all right. You had the HR consultant. I know that you had asked for us and personnel to gather questions. Were you able to send more than that one pager that you had shared with us last week or so?
I'm in the process of adding to it, and I'm going to
Okay.
send, I'm going to be elaborating on those questions. And I contacted Sandy today and told her that she's going to have the list by the end of business tomorrow.
Okay. Any update on I call it the chief law, keeping Chief Clark here past 65? Have you heard anything from?
I haven't heard anything from our new legislators yet, so we're going to have to follow up with them and ask for updates.
Okay. And one last question. I noticed in your report, you talked about the Solomon Pond mitigation money hasn't arrived yet. What about the monies that the Sennies owe that have owed since November that have asked, you know, oh, we'll get back to you, we'll get back to you. Where are we with that?
They have not provided a definitive answer yet, and I plan to talk with our working group. When are we meeting? The 28th. I'm going to be talking with our working group about that to see how, to see if we can come up with a strategy to proceed there.
Well, because I'm thinking if they owed money in November and it's quarterly, so you're gonna come up on another $100,000. So it's just not the first 100 that they owe us, it's two.
Oh, no, it's annually.
Annual.
Okay, all right.
It's 100 annually.
Okay, so if, and I know that you probably can't answer this if you're not meeting till the 28th, what are our options as the same with Solomon Pond? I mean, that's great that, you know, we sent him an invoice, that's awesome. We sent him a reminder and
Mhm.
Mary's gonna whiz him out certified mail.
Mhm.
I guess the overall question is, so what? That's great, I get a letter, woo-hoo. You know, what else are our options for dealing with owed money?
Yeah, the only other option is continuing. The only other options are continuing to talk with them, or
Court,
having legal involvement.
okay. All right, those are my questions. Thank you, Margaret.
You're welcome.
So Margaret, could you send us again, when you send those to Sandy, can you send it to all of us again?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I'll do it. I'll do it right.
Okay,
I didn't send them to Sandy. I think I sent them.
To us.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. I will.
okay. All right. And you said that we're not really going to address the fiscal year 2022 budget.
No, just a couple of updates. I've already mentioned that we're reviewing for accuracy and finalizing those wage line adjustments in the separate spreadsheet before I plug them all into the working budget document.
Mhm.
All municipal budget requests have now been received and uploaded to the FY22 budget shared folder. We are now just waiting on the intergovernmental assessments. I can't remember if I mentioned last week. Did I mention last week about the dispatch district's assessment? It's projected to go down by $57. Tomorrow morning, the dispatch district's finance committee is going to be meeting and voting on the final budget number and assessments. So we expect that to actually go down $57 next year. And then, of course, I mentioned the Worcester Regional retirement. And that final, where is it? Right here. That final number came in at 3.4% higher than FY21, which is $18,137.
Okay. Okay, then we'll move on to new business and the select board's draft town meeting action calendar.
This will look familiar to Peg and Chris. Scott, this is how we approached last year's annual town meeting and actually the fall town meeting too, just to provide kind of a calendar guideline of actions for the board to take before town meeting. So this will help keep the board on track and assure that everything is done in a timely manner.
Okay, is there any questions for Margaret about the calendar?
No, it looked fine.
And then do I hear a motion to approve?
So
Ed
moved.
Scott, there you go. Seconded.
All right. Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
And
Okay,
of course, additional dates will have to be added because we're likely going to have to do this outside again. And it's going to be a long town meeting. The board's already discussed this, I know, so.
we'll have to just add.
What's the right timeline to decide that there's formally going to be 2 nights and how we're going to divide them up? So I think the earlier we decide that, the earlier people can make their own arrangements.
Yes.
Mid-March, probably. Once you get all the articles back from everybody that need to go on the warrant.
Well, I like the idea. I think, Scott, you said the same thing, where we do the budget on one evening and some of the other stuff on the other evening. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing because we had such a short meeting last June, that this one's probably going to be a little longer.
Right. We've
So
also
this
not had
is
we've not had a special between last year and this year, which often happens as well.
Right.
And-
So
And
I-
all the bylaws were put off. All the bylaws were
Right.
deferred.
So I have the feeling that, it's probably going to be absolutely 2 nights. And maybe we should just
So-
plan for it.
Looking at this calendar, I think that by February 22nd, when we close the warrant, have a sort of a sense of the number of items,
Mhm.
that within a week or two of that, we probably can start saying, we're thinking it's 2 nights, and start deciding what's going to be on night 1, what's going to be on nights 2. So that we can start getting the word out to town and articles to say, look, we haven't figured everything out yet, but there's going to be 2 nights.
Mhm.
And people can start doing their planning and arrangements so that people can get to what is important to them.
Mhm.
Hopefully, for most folks, that's both nights, but
Yeah. And let's hope things improve. So, there is no postponement or
Yep.
anything like that.
It'd be a really good money-making item if we could get people to make cushions and sell them. Dear God, because those chairs are just not comfy for 2 nights. So, June, if you're listening, if you and Amy can get busy and start crocheting a couple cushions for me, I'd be really happy.
cushion rentals. So you get them
There you
back at the end of the meeting and do them again next year, make more money.
There you go. We can put like Town of Berlin on them. Iron. We can have an iron party. There you go.
All right. Well, move on to the Select Board's draft annual report. And did you both have a chance to read my annual report?
I did.
It was,
Did, and I had one more comment. Let me see if
oh, okay.
I thought I found a typo, which to me means it's clearly not a typo. Because it
Oh,
can't possibly be a typo if I find it. But now I can't find what I used to, it was a tab on my screen a moment ago, and I apparently have closed it. So give me a moment to find it back again.
Yeah,
oh. There is a typo. This needs to go down in history. This needs to be like printed and framed
Well,
and given to you, Chris. Just saying.
so I'm just in the second line. It talks about the negotiations falling through the board's chosen candidate for fire EMS at the beginning of 2021, and I don't remember it falling apart last week, and so I think that's supposed to be the beginning of 2020.
Well, read the sentence again, because I don't have it right in front of me.
It's in the
So
Google
the
Drive
sec-
if you want it.
It's in the Google Drive, yeah. I don't have edit access, and so other people seem to
Okay.
can make comments, but I can't make comments apparently. It says, with the negotiations falling through with the board's chosen candidate for fire EMS chief at the beginning of 2021, the board voted to file legislation for an interim fire chief to stay past his 65th birthday in May of 20. And so my guess is that it
It
did
was-
not fall as part of the beginning of 2021. It fell apart at the beginning of 2020.
I was overthinking it because I had 2020 and then I kept thinking, I think maybe did I not change the date for
No,
birthday? That should have been 2020.
2020 was 4.5 years long. So,
I know.
It's so true. Yeah, so that's right in the second line, first paragraph.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
I can change that. Was there any other things that, I know I read your comments, Peg, and
Yep.
I can take them into account and go back and look at it and see what I can do.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was fine. It was just when I read it, if I was, not being on the board, if I was to read it, it just wasn't clear as to, what we needed to, what we needed to do.
Okay. All right.
I still think that, you could about the third or fourth paragraph said, and then COVID happened, and then just dots after that.
I know.
It feels a lack of justice to all the things that all the town employees and boards have done to keep the town running and operational almost all of which happened even before I showed up on the scene, that it's just sort of one paragraph that is a good paragraph that does talk substantially about a lot of things that were done to survive. But
I think
there's a lot of work covered in that one paragraph.
I was going to let Margaret cover some of that because she was
Well,
day to day.
Yeah,
I'll try
and
to make it not all consuming.
Right.
All right. Well, I appreciate the feedback, and I'll I guess I could bring that back next week. And
Yeah.
otherwise, I'll run if I have any questions or anything. I'll run them through Margaret.
Yeah, Chris, I'll talk with you. I'll just go through very briefly with you on the CARES Act versus FEMA too, just to make sure
Yeah.
that that's clear. Okay.
Yes, please. I wanted you to look at that and see if there was if I worded it correctly, or if maybe it's something you'd rather cover. And I don't need to.
It's an easy fix. Easy.
All right. Okay. Well, I guess we're down to board questions and comments. Anybody?
Bueller. Scott, did you have one? You said you were gonna wait until the end?
I did have one. The town of Marlborough comments about C3.
Mm.
I don't fully comprehend. Maybe need some more details on them. Maybe they can provide it. It is my understanding that the retail cannabis store is entirely in the town of Berlin, correct?
That's correct.
And they're maintaining that the use of the road is not permitted. Like, so we're not allowed to drive on the road if the person driving on the road is going to go to a facility in Berlin they don't care for.
I don't want to
Or
speculate
want more
too much.
well, they want more information on. They have not said, you're right, they have not said they don't care for it, but
What they're saying is that district, which includes that right of way over the easement in Marlborough, it doesn't allow that use in their district. So we've asked the proponent is, as you know, the proponent is at the ZBA now. ZBA is working with town council to investigate all the issues around that. The applicant has reached out to us, and we have suggested that the applicant talk with our building commissioner about the districts and how all of that easement thing applies. And we've also expressed, that the town has done its due diligence with the applicant, and the applicant has done their due diligence, and we'd like to continue working with the applicant. So,
and so this is in the sort of Solomon Pond Mall overlay district. Sorry if I'm using the wrong term, but there's a district of, it is adjacent to it.
It's adjacent to it.
So it is not in the Solomon Pond district like Regal Cinemas might be part in Berlin and part in Marlborough, but it's all inside the Solomon Pond Mall district.
It's adjacent to it. It's a tiny little yellow district. I'm sorry, yellow. It's a limited business district in Berlin,
Right.
that's adjacent to the whatever the large Solomon Pond Mall overlay is.
Which is why we might not have reached out to Marlborough originally, because it's not in that sort of joint district that we share with Marlborough. Okay.
But the applicant had talked to Marlborough. So
You've helped clarify it a lot for me. Thank you.
okay, good.
Yeah, I attended that meeting. It was pretty painful. I felt bad for the gentleman who runs C3 for that. There were lots of questions that were asked to him that had come up in previous meetings, but he was gracious and answered them again for the folks there. So I'm hoping that we can come to some sort of understanding with the DCU and the city of Marlborough on this. But yeah, I guess it begs the question, why did they wait so long?
Well, we'll see. I have to say the proponent was very easy to work with, as getting an HCA, and I hope that we'll be able to continue or in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think ZBA voted it for their next meeting, whenever that is in February, for them to come back giving all parties time to gather their data. And I mean, Margaret, speaking of that, what about the other opportunity for the manufacturing?
Cultivation facility.
Cultivation.
So we've been back and forth with legal on that. We're trying to straighten out the comments on the draft. And so Chris and I are reviewing that. So hopefully by next meeting, we'll have some really, some good meaningful feedback for you on that draft.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Nope.
Right. I know that we will, at some point, Margaret, will probably have to have an executive session to talk about union negotiations, both
Yeah.
of them.
Mhm.
I don't know if we want to do it next Monday, because it probably will be a pretty full agenda, but keep us posted as to when they're requesting it exactly, or when you feel as though you're ready to move forward.
Yep, will do.
Okay.
Might be one next week, or one the following week, might be two the following week. We'll see.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Then I guess having no executive session tonight, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And seconded.
Okay. Keefe, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Okay. Thanks,
Good night.
everybody.
Thanks all. Have a good night.